Nintendo is not going to make a pro Nintendo Switch model. There have been tons of Nintendo Switch rumors, and honestly, there have been some weird and wacky ones from before 2017 when it released all the way till now, and so I wanted to really focus on the Pro model rumor that's been rumored since 2018, like 3 years ago. And so I wanted to talk about this issue, and everyone seems to want and think that Nintendo is going to make a Pro model. And honestly, I hate to break the news to you, but they're not going to. In this video, I'm going to discuss why I think that Nintendo will not do it and kind of give you more reasoning behind that. Now, first off, we've got to talk about Nintendo as a whole and not talk about the Switch first. So first off, Nintendo does their own thing. If you are a Nintendo fan or know anything about Nintendo, you should know that Nintendo does their own thing. They don't get swept away by whatever people want. We see them doing things that you could tell is weird and out of the box and not normal. And so like whenever the normal consoles come out, I'm talking about the Xbox and the PlayStation, whatever model it is, whether it's the PS1, PS2, PS3, PS4, or the Xbox 360, the Xbox One, we know that usually what they do is they will release a system, and then towards like the middle of their lifespan or a little bit later in it, they will release another system that is a different model, and usually that happens and it's a little bit different, but some of these are actually substantially different. Like the PS4 Pro is different than the PS4 or the PS4 Slim, and the same with the Xbox One, the Xbox One S, and the Xbox One X. No, like these are three different consoles, but the Xbox One and the Xbox One S or the PS4 and the PS4 Slim were very similar. They just were different shapes for the most part. But the X and the PS4 Pro were something that was brand new. These were systems that were basically a Pro model or a better model. They had better graphics, they had better processing power, there's a lot of better things that they had. And so this is one thing I wanted to mention. That's the way that normal systems have been going, at least Xbox and PlayStation. But Nintendo doesn't play by those rules, and so I needed to start this video off by saying Nintendo doesn't play by the rules, which means we're probably not going to see the Switch Pro. And I'm not expecting it, to be honest. I don't think it's something that Nintendo is going to do, but a lot of people seem to want it, and I think Nintendo in their old age of how they used to do things, they wouldn't even think about it. Now, with their kind of rethinking and restructuring, they might think about it, but I still don't believe they will do it. And the biggest reason, first off, obviously they're different, they do things differently, but the next biggest reason is that Nintendo hasn't done this before. They don't release a system and then release a better portion of that system. Usually when Nintendo releases a system, it's a great system, and so like we got things like the Switch Lite, which obviously is a smaller, slimmed down, like portable aspect of the Switch, but the system's not better there. You've got the 3DS and the new 3DS, they're not better. Yeah, there's like a bigger screen and the C-pad, but it's not like they did a bunch of new things and they released it like that. And so I thought about this, and it's not something that I think Nintendo will completely rule out, but I don't expect it. Now, let's think back. So the NES and the NES Model 2 basically were the same system. The NES Model 2, which was the top loader, actually had less capabilities because it only used the RF out to the TV, which, okay, whatever. So now moving on to the Super Nintendo. Same kind of feel. It was still the same system inside with a different shell, basically. moving on past that, we've got the Nintendo 64. We actually didn't see any differences in the Nintendo 64. It was the same console. Now, there was the Pikachu edition, which was a little bit larger, but there wasn't any difference there. Then moving on to the GameCube, we just saw the GameCube. There was the Q, the Panasonic Q GameCube that was fancy, but that wasn't done by Nintendo. It was just kind of licensed by Nintendo. So it's a gray area, but it doesn't have any like new things for the GameCube. And that takes us to the Wii. The Wii came out and they made like 3 models of it. The normal one with, or the first one with the GameCube ports. Then the second one was just kind of your base model Wii. And then the third one was like that top loader thing. And then we got the Wii U. We got one special edition, nothing else. And now we're at the Switch. So like that is Nintendo's home console lifespan for the most part. There's some weird knockoffs, like you could say that the Virtual Boy is a home console, but we're not talking about that. The mainline Nintendo consoles, we have never seen a pro model or like an upgraded model. There's not anything that Nintendo has ever done before that proves that this is something they'd even be willing to do. Now, yes, we got the Game Boy, then the Game Boy Color, but that was seen as like a completely different system. There were games that only played for the Game Boy Color, and nothing like the Game Boy Color games wouldn't play on the Game Boy. We did get like the Game Boy Advance, which was a little different, but it also took different cartridges. We got the Game Boy SP, Game Boy Advance SP, which yes was somewhat different, but I don't know if I would say it was a better model. I think it was a different design that played those games, and so I feel like this is a very touchy subject just because there's like it's very technical. You could say, oh, technically that was a new console, but technically this one's not. And so I never saw a system that Nintendo released that was a cut winner or the Pro model. Now, yes, you could maybe argue with the Game Boy Advance to the Game Boy SP. Maybe you could argue there. The DS and its line of like Lites and DSi, maybe there, and maybe with the 3DS and the new 3DS. But I don't know if I am comfortable enough to take the knowledge that we have of Nintendo and say, yes, they're going to make a Pro model. I mean, people had been asking for Waluigi and Smash for like 2 years until they finally got that. Like, Nintendo was probably pretty hesitant about that. So, what do I think? I don't think Nintendo's gonna make a Pro model. However, I love my Switch. I love my Switch Lite. Obviously, this is a Switch Lite, as you can tell. They're both awesome consoles, and people want a beefier home console from Nintendo. But I don't think that's how Nintendo works. And I had a comment on my last video that summed up how Nintendo is. Nintendo is here for the fun, not the graphics. And I 100% agree with that. And I think that also I have to take into account and say, Nintendo probably isn't going to make a Pro model. Now, I know it would be amazing and it'd be something we would love to see. But honestly, if it was me, we already have a Switch. We already have the Switch Lite. I don't want a Pro model. I want to see what Nintendo can do with the Switch and then the next system coming out. Because let's be honest, last video I talked about how the Wii to the Wii U to the Switch, that is a big leap. I want to see what Nintendo does next. So I don't want them wasting time on a Pro model whenever we could get better games for the Switch or another console in the future. So that's what I think. I want to know what you think. Comment down below and let me know. With that, that's really all I have. So see ya.